It wouldn't be a stretch if we said that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of the most impressive and influential games of all time. Even 5 years after its release, we still haven't fully discovered all the possibilities in its vast open world. And if you thought that this game was done dishing out surprises, think again, as we have a brand new discovery to showcase today. First up, Treasure Chest, the perfect guardian counter. If you've been in the boots of Link in Breath of the Wild, you know that Hyrule is not a very friendly place. A new menace is always around the corner, waiting to pounce on you. And while things do get easier as you progress through the story and get better weapons, like the Master Sword, you're still quite vulnerable as the weapon durability gets depleted. One of these tough enemies in Zelda Breath of the Wild is the Guardian. These ancient robots are terrifying, and their lasers can easily ruin your day. Most players tend to avoid them during the early hours of the game, but if you're dumb enough to run straight into Central Hyrule at the start like I was, only to get ambushed by a formidable army of Guardians, you know what true horror feels like. Worry no more, child. A Reddit user has found an innovative way to avoid the deadly Guardian laser attacks. Posted by the Increaser 2000 on the Breath of the Wild subreddit, the clip starts from your usual scavenging for treasure in the open world, and judging from their basic equipment, it seems like they haven't put many hours into the game either. The video proceeds with the user finding another chest safely tucked under a rock. And of course, to get the chest out, you need to use the Magnesis rune, which allows you to manipulate objects in the world. But wait, something is targeting them, ready to attack. Yep, you guessed it, it's a Guardian. And the player? Well, they're just standing there, defenseless, with a floating chest. However, what follows is something truly special. In the blink of an eye, you see the player try to shield themselves with the chest, and boom! The chest actually manages to catch the Guardian's laser, creating a blast in the process. Now, if this isn't one of the greatest last-second saves that you've seen in Breath of the Wild, then we don't know what is. The sheer panic right before the Guardian strikes brought this moment of genius into being, and this is exactly why we all love this game so much. What do you need to recreate this trick? If you're wondering whether you can boot up Breath of the Wild and recreate this trick at the start of the game, the answer is yes, you absolutely can. All you need is the Magnesis rune that allows you to manipulate objects via magnetism. The rune is the first one you collect out of the 4 available to you for the majority of the game. Just follow the main quest line at the start and talk to the old man after activating the Sheikah Towers. He'll point you to the Omen O Shrine on the Great Plateau, and as soon as you enter the shrine, placing your Sheikah Slate into the pedestal gets you the rune. Now you can deflect Guardian lasers to your heart's content. Is this a viable option to fight the Guardians? Yes, this video is truly remarkable, and saving yourself from a Guardian's laser using a chest is some quick thinking magic. But what happens after you've deflected the attack? The clip stops at this point, but if you're playing it, the Guardian certainly won't stop. However, thankfully, blocking the laser does not actually destroy the chest, so you could, in theory, continue to deflect it for as long as you like. You do have to hit the Guardian's back at some point though, so the trick is to move closer and closer until you're in melee range. Or you could also whip out your bow and aim for the Guardian's eye, which is a weak spot. And of course, if you're further in the game and have managed to grab some ancient weapons as well, you're all set to fight this formidable foe head on. Oh, and another tip, the Master Sword is super good against them, as not only is it an ancient weapon, but it also effectively doubles its attack power when facing a Guardian. When will these discoveries end? It's mind-boggling to think that even 5 years into its release, we're finding new things about Breath of the Wild every day. And it's not even like the game has a niche audience. The game is as mainstream as it gets, meaning that thousands of people continue to jump into Hyrule to this day, and the new secrets being discovered are not even some one-off glitches or hidden items. They're all part of the intended game mechanics, which makes these discoveries even more impressive. What Nintendo has managed to create, especially with the physics of this game, is still a class apart from the rest of the industry. Only the Elden Ring has come close enough to rival the insanely vast and variable discoverability and the sense of wonder so far. And right now, it doesn't look like the discoveries in Breath of the Wild are going to slow down anytime soon. What's up with Breath of the Wild 2? While The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild continues to impress us even after all these years, the game has still started to show signs of aging. The visuals don't look as good anymore, and the low resolution on the Switch doesn't do the game any favors either. In addition to that, Nintendo's announcement of a sequel has shifted focus to the new shiny thing. However, it's been a long time since that initial announcement as well, and we still are not quite sure when Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out. Apparently, the game started development as a quick sequel in the vein of how Majora's Mask was a follow-up to the Ocarina of Time. Somewhere along the way though, the scope of the game exceeded Nintendo's expectations, turning it into a fully fledged game of its own. As for the release date, most industry experts guess that the game will come out at the end of this year or sometime during early 2023, which isn't too far away now. What What to expect from the sequel? The details on the sequel to Breath of the Wild are still somewhat blurry, but we do know some key things. Firstly, the game is not actually called The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Just like every other game in the franchise, it will have its own subtitle according to Nintendo's marketing manager. However, revealing that title may spoil the plot, so we just have to wait a bit longer. We also know that the overall tone of the game will be much darker than Breath of the Wild, meaning that even more sinister adversaries could be introduced. Not only that, but many people have also theorized that the game might involve Link and Zelda traveling 10,000 years into the past, when Gandalf was safely sealed away. This makes sense since the trailer featured floating islands like in Skyward Sword, so this could end up being Link's journey to find out what happened to the ancient Zonai and where they went, which sound like such a cool concept. Now, some new gameplay features. The story of Breath of the Wild is good enough for what it is, and weaves a compelling narrative, but we all know that the real sauce lies in the gameplay mechanics. Thanks to the game's abilities and physics, we are still finding new secrets to this day. Replicating that same feeling and packing so many new secrets into the sequel will definitely prove challenging for Nintendo. With that said, we've already seen some hints at what the next Zelda game might have in store for us gameplay-wise. Apart from the abilities that Link already has, like the different runes, players can expect new additions to the arsenal as well. According to some Nintendo patents, we might see things like the ability to pass through platforms, perform different actions mid-air, and a new item reversal ability. Lastly, things we want to see in the next Zelda game. These new additions sound great, but in our opinion, what would make this game truly shine will be the tweaks to the physics and world interaction. Seeing real-life adjacent things like the fire spreading through the grass and boulders crushing enemies was what set Breath of the Wild apart from everything else. It was a true sandbox where your imagination was the ceiling. So with the sequel, Nintendo needs to add newer systems that take advantage of the world design. This also opens up more possibilities for environmental storytelling. Enemy and dungeon variety was also an area where Breath of the Wild was perhaps not as strong as its competitors. And obviously, after playing Elden Ring, we want a wider range of enemies, bosses, and dungeons in the game. Nevertheless, it would be fascinating to see what new influences Nintendo brings into the mix with this game. That's a wrap for this video. What new addition are you most excited to see in the sequel to Breath of the Wild? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.